Hello folks, my name is Dr. Zachariah Hildenbrand. I'm here with my colleague Dr. Kevin Shug, and we are the Collaborative Laboratories for Environmental Analysis and Remediation at the University of Texas at Arlington. We're coming to you from the Responsible Shale Energy Extraction Conference, which is a very unique event bringing together scientists, concerned citizens, operators, regulators, and technology companies to have an honest series of conversations about environmental stewardship in shale energy.
We'd really like to thank the support of the Cynthia and George Mitchell Foundation and Earth Day Texas for allowing us to put on this event. We believe that this content that we're going to be providing to those who haven't been able to attend is going to help answer and educate a lot of questions surrounding responsible shale energy extraction. So we hope you enjoy the content.
I'm really pleased to be able to introduce Mary Lou Hastings from the Cynthia and George Mitchell Foundation. They're obviously a massive important reason why we're able to have this symposium and bring you all here to talk about this topic. She's going to say a few words just to introduce Secretary Perry. So please join me in welcoming Mary Lou Hastings.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here this morning. Thanks for finding the building. Got up early to hike over here. Thanks to Kevin and Zach and Trammell Crow for all their hard work in putting this program together. It's a very timely topic with the explosion of production in the Permian Basin. What? Or maybe not. So a few years ago, in May 2013, I had the pleasure of joining then Texas Governor Rick Perry when he made a rare appearance on the floor of the House of Representatives here in Texas to honor my sort of adopted father, second father, George P. Mitchell. He recognized Mr. Mitchell for his pioneering vision in the development of shale resources. And later that year, when Mr. Mitchell died, The Economist magazine wrote that few business people have done as much to change the world as George Mitchell did. The shale energy revolution, enabled in part by Mr. Mitchell with key financial support from the Department of Energy, took place during Secretary Perry's tenure as Texas governor. Without DOE's decades of research and development work, it would have taken Mr. Mitchell much longer to crack the shale code, if he would have been able to do it at all. And it's unlikely that Texas would be in its current position as a world leader in oil and gas production that it is again today. Secretary Perry's actions as governor, a combination of smart energy policies, infrastructure investments, and well-designed electricity markets, both reaffirmed Texas as a world leader in oil and gas, but it also positioned the state to lead the country in renewable and clean energy generation. The clean energy gains under Secretary Perry's leadership were and continue to be a winning formula for both jobs and consumers in the state. These include being one of the first states to create incentives for renewable energy generation, energy efficiency. They deregulated, he and Governor Bush deregulated our energy markets, our electricity markets here in the state. Governor Perry signed legislation that built $7 billion worth of transmission lines to bring West Texas wind into East Texas load. And of course, Governor Perry oversaw the shale revolution. The Texas story, we call it at the Mitchell Foundation, presents an opportunity to inform national policies that can drive our clean energy economy using a robust set of options that are consistent with conservative values. Under Secretary Perry's leadership, the Mitchell Foundation is hopeful that DOE's research and development programs in energy efficiency and renewable energy, carbon capture and sequestration, and oil and gas technology will continue to foster and deploy innovative solutions for our national energy needs. Mr. Secretary, welcome to Earth Day, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to introduce the 14th United States Secretary of Energy, Rick Perry.
Most of you, I think, know who's coming right at the moment. So it's my pleasure to introduce Secretary of Energy, Secretary Perry.
This looks like a Baptist church. Everybody's sitting in the back. You all can come forward. We're not going to take a collection if you'd like. But anyway, thanks for being here. And I was just telling Mary Lou that those of us who had the great privilege to know and work with George Mitchell will be forever changed and forever blessed to have had that relationship. How many of you in the crowd knew him in a personal way, other than just what you've read about him? Yeah, a fascinating man, to say. I truly think in the true sense of the word Renaissance, that George Mitchell was a Renaissance man, and a brilliant fellow, a great example of the American dream of someone who grew up without a lot of resources to back up anything he wanted to do, worked hard. Now, some of us would say that one of his fortuitous things in life that occurred and which allowed him to be incredibly successful was that he graduated from the beloved Texas A&M University. And George would agree with that. But notwithstanding, we pitch around this term, he or she changed the world. We hear it from time to time. That's really a pretty small group of people when you think about it. I had the opportunity to walk down the hall in an agency of government today with some reminders of who we are as a people, who we are as a government. And I walk past a letter every day going into the office of the Secretary of Energy that was signed by Albert Einstein, a letter to Franklin Roosevelt telling him about this discovery that changed the world. George Mitchell is in that same short list of men and women who truly changed the world. I'm reminded about 12 years ago, we were doing a governor's event somewhere over on the East Coast, down, I think, in Georgia, if my memory serves me correct. And there was a rather massive storm in the Gulf Coast that we came to learn the name and the impact of, Katrina, a few days later. But as we were out at that event, before this storm had really formulated, we were just keeping an eye on it, and there was an individual giving a speech to these governors. And the name of the speech was Peak Oil. that we had found all of the fossil fuels, all the oil and gas that there was, we had peaked out. He wasn't telling us what the future looked like. You're going to go pick this one or this one or this one. But he said, you need to just realize that we have peaked out and the world is going to have to find a different source of power. That guy didn't know George Mitchell. He didn't understand the brilliance of men and women in our national laboratories who were looking for ways to extract these resources. And they were incredibly successful. Both George Mitchell, with his belief that hydraulic fracturing did in fact work and that you could use it, you could use it safely and thoughtfully and economically. And through the work of brilliant scientists at our national labs, that polycarbide bit, basically diamond cutters, that they were able to adhere to those drill bits and allow us to do directional drilling has literally changed the world. And that is a good reflection that innovation is something that we can never take our eye off of. I mean, our collective interest is in making a globe that is going to be protected as well as we can protect it, and at the same time have the ability to improve people's quality of life. There's 600 million people on the African continent that do not have access to electricity. I dare say in this audience, is there anyone that did not grow up with electricity? And I'm not talking about a carbide plant. I grew up in a house that had a carbide plant out by the side of it, and the windmill ran during the daytime, and you had a couple of hours of electricity, and then REA came. But there's 600 million people in Africa that don't even have that. And we ought to care about it. And we do. Quality of life comes in a lot of different ways. Here in Dallas, Texas, sometimes when we talk about quality of life, we talk about the cultural arts. As well we should, because I think they are very much a part of quality of life. One of the things I'm proud of, over that 14-year period of time that I got to serve as the governor of the state of Texas, we saw the cultural arts explode. We got 2 performing arts facilities in this town now. You have the largest cultural arts district in America in this town. The Nashers moved their sculpture garden here during that period of time. The Perot's finished that amazing Museum of Natural Science. Fort Worth got a new Museum of Modern Art. The Bassett's built one of the finest symphony halls in the world. Their zoo is as good as any in the country. Austin's got a new fine arts, performing arts facility. The only Formula One track in the United States. Largest film and music festival in the world, South by Southwest. Those things happened in a 15-year period of time. They have a real effect on quality of life, and those are important. And I will suggest they happen because we let people keep more of their money. We didn't overtax them, overregulate them, overlitigate them. Had a skilled workforce, so you knew that if you put in a manufacturing facility in San Antonio to build every Toyota pickup truck in the United States, you can find that skilled workforce. They came here in droves during that 14, 15-year period of time, through the 2000s and till current time. And they came here because they knew they would be free from overtaxation, over litigation, over regulation. And boy, did they come. I think we added some 4.5 million people to the population rolls of the state. That's a stunning growth. I mean, over 20% growth during that period of time. Holy mackerel, jobs. We created more jobs than any other state in the nation. Matter of fact, there was a period of time when Texas created by itself more jobs than the rest of the country combined. So, you know, we get a big old pat on the back. Way to go, you created a nice environment and people moved here and they, you know, enjoyed it, they liked it, their quality of life improved. You added a whole bunch of people to this state, which means a whole bunch of pickup trucks on your highways. A substantial increase of non-point source pollution. You had that big old petrochemical industry along the Gulf Coast. It was just out there cranking out compounds and products that are used to build things and to affect people's lives in various and sundry ways. And oh, by the way, the latitude of the vast majority of those plants is in a place, in a part of the globe that is really conducive to the creation of ozone. So nice going about creating all those jobs and, making people a lot of money. But conventional wisdom would have told you played hell with your environment. But conventional wisdom was wrong. Because there were men and women in this state that understood that you don't have to divorce economic growth and prosperity and taking care of your environment. During that period of time, we saw nitrogen oxide levels going down by some 60%. SO2 levels down by some 50%. Total carbon dioxide levels down by almost 20%. Wasn't that our goal? Isn't that what we tried to? If someone 20 years ago said, if you can do that, that will be successful. And I hope there's still people who recognize that that is successful, that is the goal, that is what we're trying to do. And both my point, President Trump's point, the rest of us in his cabinet and the members of the legislature that I work with, Democrats and Republicans, by and large would agree that's a goal. Let's go do this. Let's go do it across America. We're seeing those emissions going down. But the question is, how did it happen? It wasn't an accident. It didn't just, It happened because there were some thoughtful engagements, thoughtful regulation. Listen, we regulate in the state of Texas, but I hope we can say that we did it in a thoughtful way. And what happens in this state, and it's not just because we're Texans and we think everything, the world revolves around Texas. Some people may think that. I remind people this is the 12th largest economy in the world. If we were a standalone nation, which I do remind my friends in Washington we were once upon a time, what goes on here matters. What school books you pick matter. Which tax policies, regulatory policies, which environmental policies you put into place matter because we're big enough to have an effect. How did that happen? How did you grow that much, increase that number of vehicles on your roads, have that increase of production on that Gulf Coast petrochemical? How'd you do that? Well, when you think about it, what we did is we gave incentives. We didn't just have big old gnarly knuckle-dragging regulations in place. We were thoughtful about how will we get a company to change out its old, dirty, burning fleet engines to cleaner burning engines. Well, we gave them an incentive through the franchise tax. It was the Texas Emissions Reduction Program, TERP, and it worked. And then we had this massive shift over, thanks to George Mitchell, who made all of those molecules of gas retrievable and usable. We had this massive shift from older, inefficient power generation to natural gas. And we had the largest wind energy build out in the nation. I loved passing up California. Competition's a good thing, and I'm not the least a bit above letting Jerry Brown know that we passed California in something. Whatever it might be, whether it's in total exports, which we did, or whether it's in wind energy, which we did. Texas produces more wind than all but 5 other countries today. And it happened because of a thoughtful putting into place to clearly show you build it out there, we'll help with the CREZ lines to bring it to where the people are. All of those collectively help make a real difference. And we can continue to see that type of improvement and engagement. But it's going to take innovation. And that's what I want to wrap up with today. It's the innovation that you're going to see. I told a group of my friends over the course of the last 10 days that the best job I ever had in my life was being the governor of the state of Texas. And my wife and I will be forever indebted for the privilege to serve. But now, officially, the coolest job I've ever had in my life is to be the Secretary of Energy. And the reason for that is this, now my edification of just what all these national labs are engaged in. We are so blessed as a country. No place in the world has the brain power, has the ability to affect people's lives as our national labs. These 17 literal jewels that are out there working with the private sector, working with our universities, coming up with solutions to challenges that face us. Last week I was in Richmond, just outside of Houston, opening up the world's largest post-combustion carbon capture plant in the world that's taking that CO2, putting it into a pipeline, shipping it 80 miles over, and taking an oil field that was making 300 barrels a day to 15,000 barrels a day. You think our friends in China couldn't use that technology? And it came from national labs. That's what we have the potential to do. If we will believe and trust and make available these innovations, then I'm quite comfortable that the future of this globe is bright, is positive, is clean for my grandchildren and for children around the world. And my hope and my goal is that through innovation, through the engagement of the people of this country, most likely through our national labs, that in years to come, those 600 million children, over 600 million people in Africa, have access to a miraculous thing called electricity that will change their lives in a positive way forever. Thank you.